One, two, three.
Szabla do boju, ręce w dłoń, bolszewika, goń, goń, goń. Tak, zjadł?
Wow, that's
Right.
so.
The
Is
next-
that
the
the
next.
song
Yeah.
that you sang when you drove the tractor through Mexico?
Of course.
Hi. So that you took the Mutucham. I read about that and how in itself it was a bold move. From your experience, could you tell for those that are not really familiar with it? Could you walk us through on that whole journey?
Wow. Okay. So I was not expecting that question here, but thank you,
surprise.
thank you for reaching so deep to my history of activities. Yeah. So actually, years ago, we started the world promotion of Ursus, the Polish tractors, heading to South America in 2002. So over nearly 25 years ago, we get to Uruguay, Argentina. Passing through Bolivia, Peru, Chile, with the Polish agriculture tractor, having over 25,000 kilometers through South America. So didn't reach to Mexico, but was the direction to
Was
get.
along the way.
Then it was Europe. The plan is get to Africa and establish assembly line for the tractors. Ursus, of
To
course.
me, seeing that we're here on African basis, let's narrow it down to Africa.
Yeah.
Talk to me in numbers. How is it looking so far?
How is looking what
Your involvement into
Okay.
African business.
Basically, I'm working with in Ethiopia. We opened two offices. The first one we just start when the COVID started, so it make things slow, but it was enough strong. We survived the
You really
time.
weathered the storm, I would say.
There are a couple of thousand cows walking on Ethiopia ground where we introduce the insemination program with the Ethiopian Ministry of Agriculture. There are several experimental fields we built. We have tests over Zimbabwe, Kenya, Rwanda, in Ethiopia as well. So we are facing now the biggest for us the project we have in Rwanda, to help to establish the biggest African cattle farm with over 25,000 heads. So this is if we talk about the numbers, this is the biggest numbers I can put on the table in this moment.
I'm hearing you talk about Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia. How is your mapping like? Because it's not like you're attacking one region at a time. You are spaced out in different regions.
Actually,
so what's your
it's
mode
basic.
of identifying the opportunities or the place to go?
Basically, I'm based in East Africa, with Ethiopia as number one, as by time which I spent there in our activities, also Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. Zimbabwe is the project where we were invited straight by Zimbabwean Ministry of Agriculture. So we've been just once on the beekeeping project to develop the honey production, to establish the fertilizer production, and we just passed the test very freshly because in November last year.
That's
so
pretty fresh.
it's very fresh. So we are just aligning, but out of that, most of our activities they are on the corner of Africa, mostly in East Africa sector, where I'm CEO for Polish African Chamber of Commerce, and we are operating in that region, introducing some Polish solutions, but also looking for the products for our market, which is in between of all is the coffee and cacao.
Allow me to be selfish. I'm from Zimbabwe, so let's zone into Zimbabwe for a bit.
Okay.
So you just run a test. Now, from a test, how are we now moving and shifting towards something that's scalable?
We are awaiting the final information after we pass all the process, because we make some introducing in November, and we already passed the harvests.
Okay.
So our partners are very happy for the effects, because using the Polish biostimulators, biofertilizers, we show on the ground that we already bring the changes.
Okay.
Using very simple solutions and very cheap solution as the biofertilizers, which are much cheaper than the local fertilizers, and we produce more crops, we produce more final products.
So you
So we give the savings on the beginning, and we produce more food on the end of the process. So we talk totally about the increasing the food efficiency production, not only doing the mechanization of agriculture, but using some very simple solutions.
Okay.
And the last point of that is that we are not only proposing the exporting from Poland ready solutions to Zimbabwe in that case, but we are proposing also the producing them in Zimbabwe. So this was one of the idea. We can bring the technology and start to produce in Zimbabwe. So giving also additional workplaces for the local team. But in this case, again, we create the lower price of the final product because we can produce something locally. We don't need to transport. We don't need to spend the months on the sea. We don't need to spend money on the containers to send. And the logistic is this is what is killing the market. What is killing the business is the transportation cost. So we find a solution. We just need to produce. Produce locally to be closer to the consumer.
Okay, so you already mentioned that you already invited by the Ministry of Agriculture,
Yeah.
right? So could you please elaborate on the relationship between your business and the ministry there?
So generally, we've been invited like locally by local entrepreneurs,
yeah.
which are related with ministry. So our products were presented, and now we are waiting for the final approval. If the approval will pass positively, which we are waiting, our products need to pass through ministry to be registered. To be registered officially. Once we are registered, once we are approved, we can make some scaling.
Okay.
Because this was like initial entrance, our first entrance into Zimbabwe, and which actually I found it very positively. Once we make some tests on the Harare experimental fields of the ministry in the center, and then we spend some time on the local farms out of the capital. So including the experiments over the bees, over the coffee farms, in another plants using our biofertilizers. So this is one of the points. The next step, they are introducing the Polish agriculture machinery and implements, but it's a little bit more complicated than fertilizers, which everyone needs, and it's very easy to produce them locally.
I like that. And for you to proceed, you just mentioned that you met one Zimbabwean guy and you got yourself a deal. So, to my last question, you're producing wheat and Poland is offering what, 250 per ton, whereas Ethiopia is operating at what, 750 per ton? Here you have this huge discrepancy in prices. What's limiting you from taking over the whole entire market?
No, actually, this is a good question, yeah, because we saw that there's many middlemen which are taking the advantage. 250 per 1 ton, it's very low.
Yes.
It's just on the limits of the. Sometimes our farmers say we get less money than cost of the production. So we want to give more to our farmers. Let's give them the 350 per ton, but don't sell this in Ethiopia 700. Let's sell, including the transportation cost, we can sell it in 500, 550, which still will be much more cheaper for them. So we look actually the good reliable partners and or the governments. Make straight communication with our government. Poland has now, we have in the storages over 10 million ton of wheat.
That's a lot.
And over 1 million ton of potatoes. And much more of another products. We are one of the biggest producers of wheat, ready wheat flour for the bread production. So, or we can introduce the wheat mills for the flour in Zimbabwe or in other African countries. So we can facilitate the machinery for the bread production. Just exporting the wheat, because some of African countries, they don't have, the climate is not good for wheat.
Right.
The climate is here. So let's exchange with the products which we have. We need coffee, we need cacao, we need avocado, bananas, and a lot of natural resources. And but also we are not thinking only to take the raw product. We can bring technology as the food processing technology. When I brought here some cans, we have the factory for the cans, so we can produce ready product to preserve the food,
For sure.
to reduce the post-harvest loss. So I was mentioning on my presentation the post-harvest loss is the one of the first necessities in Africa we need to reduce, and we can reduce it using the modern silos, which are very cheap. There's very cheap solutions.
Okay.
We just been counting in case of Ethiopia the loss of this 30-40% of the harvest, the post-harvest they have. The value of what they are losing is the value to build the silos. So the first year they get the return, and the next year they are just increasing. But we are not talking only about the money. We talk about the food. Africa is facing the lack of food, and it needs import millions of tons. If you save your food, maybe it disappear. You don't need even to import. You can start export. But this brings the danger for some countries, which are the big exporters. So this is the point why the very, let's say, some lobbyists with a lot of money, they are not really happy to develop Africa. This is a little bit out of the official mainstream information. It's very political, and we can keep going about that. But we see that there is some big lobbying which is stopping, putting the brake, the brake pedal, not only on developing African countries, on developing Poland as well. So, but we see it already, and we are just cutting that middleman. So let's work together.
That's business. Thank you very much. Yeah.
No, thank you.
All the best.
All the best.